So this is our third meeting. And anyway, I was asked to just, I guess, tell a few stories. So one devotee who had asked me about, yesterday when I was at the farm, had asked about the GBC, about us. A devotee told, someone he knew that was in the GBC ISKCON, or whatever you want to call that other ISKCON, anyway, had told him that, we were supposed to follow the GBC. And so they say that that's what they're doing. They're obeying the GBC, that this is what Prabhupada had instructed us to do. So the GBC is telling them that these men are authorized to be gurus, so they should be following the GBC and accept that process. So he was complaining that those who are following the Ritvik process are not actually obeying Srila Prabhupada's instructions to obey the GBC. So he was asking me about that. So I told him I knew of two stories. One in which he was a GBC in Hawaii at the time, and he had a personal fall down. This pops my peas. Anyway, he had a personal fall down. So, but it only concerned himself. He wasn't exposing other devotees to, incorrect ideas or giving them bad instructions. He just had a personal fall down. Prabhupada was aware of it. He made amends with Srila Prabhupada, and and Prabhupada forgave him and never removed him from his service. He was still acting as GBC. Well, there was two devotees in Hawaii. My understanding is that they were chanting 64 rounds. And they felt that they were more advanced than that GBC who fell down. So they refused to take any guidance from that GBC. And it was creating some disturbance in that temple, that zone. So I got to Srila Prabhupada, and they met with Srila Prabhupada. And they were telling Srila Prabhupada, because we're chanting, so many rounds, and this person has had a fall down, we can't take any instruction from him. We're not going to take guidance from him. We only want to take guidance directly from you, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, you must obey the GBC. You must follow the GBC. But they kept arguing, no, we only want to take instruction from you. So then Srila Prabhupada said, oh, you will take guidance from me directly. They said, yes, Prabhupada, that's what we want. We want you to give us guidance. So Prabhupada said, then, I am ordering you must follow this GBC. And immediately they said, no. And Prabhupada said, then you are no longer my disciple. He basically disowned, because they're refusing to follow Srila Prabhupada. They were wanting to follow him directly and not follow that GBC, but Prabhupada's instruction was, I'm instructing you, you must follow this GBC. And no, we can't do that. So Prabhupada rejected them. And even commented it will take them 750 lifetimes of their chanting to go back home, even though they're chanting so many rounds. Because they were refusing to accept Srila Prabhupada. So that is one instance. The Prabhupada wanted us to follow the GBC, even if they've had a temporary fall down, because that GBC wasn't giving fallen guidance. He was still giving guidance, in accordance with what Prabhupada wanted. But there's another example that I give, and that concerned a different GBC. And he was GBC for New York and for Tokyo, Japan. And when he was in Japan, there was one Mataji with the last name Toyota. And he was a sannyasi, but she saw he was the GBC, he was a sannyasi who was in charge, so she, made a play on him, because she wanted to hook up with somebody who had some position in ISKCON. And he thought, oh, she's going to be the heir of Toyota fortune. She's worth billions, This could be billions of dollars coming to ISKCON. So he stepped down from sannyas and he married her. So when she came to New York, when they went to New York, she told him that she wanted to have fish. She was too fond of eating fish, and she wanted to have fish. And he was telling her, "You can't. No, we're Vaishnavas. We don't take fish. We only take Krishna's prasadam." So she demanded, "Then you have the temple devotees go buy fish and prepare fish in the temple kitchen, offer it to the deities, and then I can take Krishna's prasadam." At first he rejected, but then she threatened to leave. And he's thinking, "Oh my God, billions of dollars going?" So, so he actually told the devotees to buy the fish. They bought it, they prepared it in the kitchen, they offered it to the deities, and Prabhupada came to know of it. Obviously, Srila Prabhupada was furious. And I heard this story from the devotee who was being chastised by Prabhupada. But Prabhupada was obviously furious with Bali Mardan. His fall down involved other devotees, it involved the deities, it involved the principles that we stand on. And so I can't even remember how he chastised Bali Mardan. I don't remember exactly, because he did remain as a GBC. Prabhupada didn't even remove him. But obviously he chastised him. But there was the other devotees, the ones who bought the fish, prepared the fish, offered the fish, and Prabhupada was heavy with them. He was chastising them. So the one devotee was explaining this to me. He said, but Prabhupada, he said, "We were just following your instructions. You told us to follow the GBC." And it actually, even Prabhupada said, well, I think, because the devotee was quoting, that if the authority is wrong and you follow, that they will take the karma for that if they're misguiding you. So they were saying, "Prabhupada, we're just following your instructions to follow the GBC." So Prabhupada asked them, "Did you know what you did was wrong?" And yes, they knew what they did was wrong. Then Prabhupada said, "Then you should not have accepted that GBC. You shouldn't have followed his direction. If you know that that GBC is giving you all wrong guidance, then you have to reject. If you know that the higher principle, I mean, we don't take fish into Krishna's, Radharani's kitchen and offer it to Krishna, you know. I mean, it was obvious. Anyone who's been a new bhakta would understand that was wrong. So Prabhupada said, if you knew it was wrong, then you should not follow. And he gave the example of, of Bali Mardan. I mean, Bali Maharaj. Bali Mardan is the one who made the offense, but anyway. So he gave the example of Bali Maharaj, that he had to reject Sukacharya because he knew the advice he was giving was wrong. So if you don't know, if you don't know that the advice they're giving, then yes, you should obey and you should follow. So, and if they're giving bad advice, then they will be, the ones who will take that karma for it. But if you know what they're guiding you is wrong, so that is why on this issue, we should understand the issue from the facts, from the evidence, from what Srila Prabhupada really wanted on this Ritvik issue, Guru issue. Then once we come to that, I mean, myself, when we didn't know, a lot of devotees when Prabhupada had left and the GBC were putting these 11 men up as the next acharyas, we all knew it was wrong, but we didn't know what was right. So we had to follow. We had to accept it. What else are we going to do? I mean, we could complain and then we get kicked out of ISKCON. So then what? So we had to follow. And but once we found the evidence, once we got hold of the actual facts and found the evidence, we can make our own conclusion. Then we knew they were wrong. Then we have to give it up. I actually was talking to, when my children were young, someone else was asking what, I can't remember what the question was, but anyway, I was explaining that, how do the other devotees, because if I'm vocal about this issue, how has that affected me amongst my godbrothers? And the thing is that I wasn't vocal about this issue because when my children were young, because there were no Ritvik temples in America that I could go to that were nearby, and I wanted them to have Krishna consciousness growing up. I knew if I was vocal, I would be kicked out of the temple, so not welcome. So I had to keep my mouth shut, basically, and it was it wasn't easy. I mean, but I kept writing to the GBC. They knew where I stood. I wasn't like totally silent on the issue because I thought if I could convince them, then they would convince everyone else. So I kept writing them. I kept trying to have. So one day, I had my children make respect Indradumna Maharaj because back in the early 2000s, we had heard how he was preaching in the Amazon, river, and he was doing. So I thought, okay, he's a preaching sannyasi. So at least respect him as a sannyasi when my children were young. So we had some rapport with him. So later, when my children got a little older, I asked him, I want to discuss with you, because I've been asking the GBC over and over. I want to discuss this issue in an intellectual way. I want a sober intellectual discussion on it, not just name calling and run away. And they wouldn't. They refused. Indradumna wasn't GBC, but he was, respected devotee. So I asked him, I want to have a private discussion with you on this. And he said, oh, you're asking the wrong person. He said, I don't know the arguments one side or the other. He's never even looked into whether the Ritvik issue was bona fide or not. And I was thinking, how could he take up becoming guru? But he said, Prabhu, I just accept the GBC. And they're saying it's good. They're saying this is what, Prabhupada wanted. And he wanted us to become guru. So I've taken up becoming guru. I'm just following them. At first, I was upset with that. But then that actually is the proper, if you don't know, you should follow the GBC. But he's taking disciples, and he knew there was a controversy. So really, he should have studied it on his own. The GBC was telling everybody not to, because anyone who did start studying it actually started doubting that the GBC was right. So that's why they were saying it was poisonous. Radhe, did you have my wife, the offering? Okay. Okay. I told before about my first morning walk and wanting to write down all the questions I wanted to ask Prabhupada, and I didn't have the list, and so I wanted to ask about the comment and all that. Well, on that same walk, there's all sannyasis, GVC, temple presidents. I had just gotten initiated, so I felt like, I was a small child in the room, they're all adults, so but I was trying to get next to Prabhupada where I could hear, but they were all there and there wasn't any room. And I saw nobody who was right behind Prabhupada. And I thought, I'll get as close as I can behind him so I can hear him. When somebody's talking this way, it's hard to hear behind. So I was trying to get as close as I could, and I'm walking right behind Prabhupada. And I thought, so I looked down and I thought, I'll just put my feet in Prabhupada's footprints. Where he stepped, I'll just walk in his footprints. It's kind of childish but then Prabhupada went to make a point. And when Prabhupada's walking and he wants to make a point, he just stops all of a sudden. And I'm walking right behind him. I was on my tiptoes, trying to balance myself, and my nose was bouncing on his sika. He didn't turn around, though, see what was going on. But, don't walk too close. And after that, I had to keep my distance. What else? Okay, so I was also asked about telling a story with Srila Prabhupada that I had that was unique. I had been, when Prabhupada came to LA, I'd gone to the airport to greet him the time before. And it was kind of special because you're out in the public and everybody's looking at these straight, and in the West, nobody saw people in dhotis and saris before. So it's a spectacle to them, see all these people in dhotis, saris, shaved head, like what in the world? And they think us as being really strange until Srila Prabhupada arrives, and then it's like, oh, it's, he's, but it's just it was a special thing. I wanted to go again. So Prabhupada was coming, and right before I went to leave for the airport, they said, oh, Prabhu, there's more, we have to get more things arranged, clean in the temple room and things, so I had to stay back. And I was disappointed, I don't get to go to the airport and greet Prabhupada. But, just a second. But because I was in the temple, I was still doing things when Prabhupada, so I didn't even go out to the curb when the car came. I was still getting things done in the temple room. So when he came, just a second. So when he came, I was in the temple room, and he walked in and he goes to Gauranatai altar first. So I'm over by Rukmini-Dwarakadish's altar, next to it. And then after he greeted them, took the Charanamrita, he came over to Rukmini-Dwarakadish's altar, and the whole kirtan, all the devotees are pushing up close to be as close to Prabhupada, and it pushed me right up next to Srila Prabhupada. So he was facing the deities, I was actually facing Prabhupada. And so my shoulder was his shoulder was right there by my chest, and I'm right next to him. And I know he did, I'm sure he did this for my benefit. As far as I know, no one else heard Srila Prabhupada. But he started praying, and to the deities, and said, so, I see you are dressed so nicely. So do they do this every day, even when I'm not here? Oh, very good, very nice. I didn't hear Krishna, but Prabhupada was having a two-way conversation. I could hear, I heard Prabhupada asking the questions. And so, he was, and then he said, so how are they feeding you? How is the food? Oh, very good, very nice. And he was asking how the standards were. And he was, oh, very good, very good. So I got to see that. I got to experience that. The Prabhupada was actually, he didn't have to be there to know what was going on. All he had to do was ask Krishna, and he had two-way conversations with Krishna. I never told anybody about that. I don't know why. I was always quiet about things. I just didn't share anything. I never told anybody. When they came around after Prabhupada passed away, and they're asking devotees if they had any story they wanted to tell for the Prabhupada Lilamrita, it wasn't Satsvarup, because Satsvarup knew me. The devotee that came by didn't even know me, so I said, yeah, and I told him that story, and he said, Prabhu, anybody else hear that can confirm that Prabhupada was talking? And I said, I don't know. I didn't see anybody. Nobody talked about it. I don't know. And he said, oh, then we can't publish that just because you said whatever. So it never got published. But that was the only time I really told anybody. One time devotees asked Prabhupada, you're praying, we see that you pray every day before the deities. Srila Prabhupada, what are you praying? And Prabhupada said, I am praying for Krishna's protection, to protect me from falling into Maya. And then, I don't know if it was the same time or another time, Prabhupada said this is the disease of the devotees. They don't fear Maya. And, they don't have that much fear of Maya. Did you send? Oh, okay. So, yeah, Srila Prabhupada was able to speak to Krishna. That's why he knew everything we were going, like when I went to ask my question, and another devotee asked, he turned around. So many times we knew Prabhupada just knew what we were thinking. Okay, so and 3 years ago, in 2022, my wife of 40 years passed away. It was an auspicious passing. And, you know, she had some, what do you want to go, high blood pressure, and then kidney failure, and then heart. So, but in her last days, actually, I was working on this I don't have the books aren't here yet, huh? They have copies yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. I was just wondering there was no copies, but before I did the book, I was writing the scripts for the video presentation. The book is based on that 30 hours of video. So as I was producing that presentation, my wife knew what I was working on. I'd always tell her philosophically, you know, share with her the realizations I was having. So she kept asking me, when's it going to be done? When are you done? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? And then she was getting very sick. And it was obvious she wasn't going to make it. She went into hospice care. So that means, you know, final stages. So she kept asking me, is it done yet? Is it done yet? And I could see she really wanted to know what, you know, that I had it done. So I worked on it, got it up, cut corners and put it up. At least it's done. And I told her it's done, it's online. I sent out the links to it to the GBC because I wanted them to see it first. And then she was, anyway, she was grinning ear to ear. She just said, she said, I'm so happy for you. And she said, and Prabhupada is going to be so pleased, you know. She wanted to know that I got it done. So then she stayed up for 36 hours after that. And I had to stay up with her. I think she was afraid if she falls asleep, she wasn't going to get up. So finally she slept 14 hours, or I slept 12 hours because I had been up for 36. And when I got up, she was still sleeping. So after 14 hours, it barely touched her on the shoulder, and she just, Radha. I never heard her call out for Radha. We had, our deities are Radha Shamashundar, but she would always, you know, Radha Shamashundar or Radha, but never heard her just call out Radha. And I actually sent shivers because I thought she's actually calling out to Radharani. Anyway, she said, start chanting. She was telling me what to do. And so I was fumbling around trying to get the Prabhupada playing on the tablet. And she said, why aren't you chanting? Start chanting. And I said, just a minute. I got Prabhupada chanting. And then I started chanting. My son was there. We were chanting. So she asked for Jagannath deity. I put Jagannath next to her. Anyway, her passing was very auspicious. Prabhupada singing, we were chanting. So then a week afterwards, she came to me in a very vivid dream. And she said she had a message that she wanted me to tell all the devotees. So in 2022, I wrote it down as my Vyasa Puja offering, because you write the Vyasa Puja offerings to be published in the book, you know, earlier in the year. And so they asked me only about a week or two after she passed, and she had just come and asked that I give this message. So I wrote it down as my Vyasa Puja offering. I'll just read it. To His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It has been 46 long years since I last saw you in person in 1976. You never made it back to Los Angeles in 1977, and I was not able to come to India to see you again. For 41 of those years, I had a friend, a partner, my wife, who also left this world this year in an auspicious way. In an auspicious way. She had she had kidney disease, then cognitive heart failure due to high blood pressure. In the last month, she knew I would be leaving soon. In her last days, I didn't know I had written all this. She hadn't slept for 36 hours, and finally she fell asleep. I wrote after 18 hours, 14 hours, 18 hours, whatever. I tapped her on the shoulder, and she immediately woke up saying, Radha, Radha. I had never heard her call out to Radha like that before. She again said, Radha, Radha. And then she told me to start chanting. I put on a recording of you, Srila Prabhupada, chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And I and our son, who was home, both started chanting the Maha Mantra. She asked for Jagannath. I didn't even know I wrote all this. I wouldn't have explained it already. And she asked for a Jagannath deity, and I placed him next to her. I put fresh tilak on her. I placed a tulsi leaf in her mouth, and she left this world very peacefully, no struggle. She just stopped breathing. But Krishna was there in the form of his holy name, being chanted, not just by her husband and her son, but by you, Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of Radha and Krishna. What was most auspicious in my view was that when I woke her up, she called out for Radha, Radha. I knew right then that she was already on her way back home, and my waking her up brought her back here just long enough that she would depart in a most auspicious way. Then a week after she left, she appeared in my dream, and it was one of those very real, vivid dreams, and asked that I tell others the message she wanted me to tell is this. She was a simple devotee. She never had any position. She was never in charge of any projects, and yet she wanted not just me, but others to know that she was being taken back home, back to Godhead. What she wanted me to tell everyone was that the program that you taught us, Srila Prabhupada, works. And all we have to do is follow that simple program that you have so kindly given us. Just chant our 16 rounds daily, read your books, and render service to Krishna in the form of his deity. To render service to you, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's pure devotee. We don't have to become a big important devotee. We don't have to be in charge of this or that, or have followers, or be famous. If that becomes our service to you, then fine, we carry it out in the same as if we're cleaning the temple room floor or washing Krishna's pots. And we just do whatever service you and Krishna wants us in a humble and devotional mood. And that is the most important part, the devotional mood. Even if we are not able to render physical service, our mood must always be of devotion to Krishna. This was the message that she asked me to tell others, that your teachings work, Srila Prabhupada. All we have to do is follow what you have taught us. And regardless of who we are, regardless even if we have no important position, we will be earning our ticket to go back home, back to Godhead, where we can serve you and Radha and Krishna directly. So I have decided to make this message my offering to you this year, to tell others what my wife told me, that your teachings work, Srila Prabhupada. All we have to do is follow what you have given us. There is no other way we can thank you for what you have given us. The way out of this miserable samsara of this material world, what you have given us, the way out of this miserable samsara of this material world. From the lowest planet to the highest, it is all a place of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. We are now bound up, birth after birth, endless birth after birth, and death. And we are bound in this place of birth and death, old age and disease. As you told us, Srila Prabhupada, this material world is no place for a gentleman. We must do our business and get out. And you have shown us the path. You have given us the map. Your teachings and books shed the full brilliance of 1,000 suns lighting up this path. And all we have to do is follow you. Follow what you have taught us. And our great escape from the endless cycle of birth and death are guaranteed, even for us small, unimportant, common devotees who have no important social position. Your teachings work for everyone. Thank you very much. Aspiring to become your worthy and humble servant, Ameyatma Prabhu. So that was my offering, but it was my wife's offering because she asked me to. Now I wrote this for the ISKCON, for my Vyasa Puja offering for ISKCON, and that I had so many of my godbrothers and god sisters, come to me and thank me for that message. I had gurus telling me they were giving classes on this, and so many senior devotees were telling me how they appreciate it. One Mataji who knew my wife, god sister, in Alachua, begged me, please, Prabhu, I want to read your offering as my offering to Srila Prabhupada in the temple room, So, a lot of devotees appreciate it. 3 years later, for the Krishna Balaram 50th anniversary in Vrindavan, so many of my godbrothers were there, and one devotee came up to me and said, are you Ameyatma, the one who wrote that offering? And I said, yeah. And he said, Prabhu, he said, he still gives classes on that. And devotees were passing around that offering then, 3 years later, at the gathering there. So, and devotees were coming up and telling me how they were still appreciating that. So I thought I would share that. Yes, because it doesn't matter if we have position or not. And that was her, if we just, Prabhupada's teachings work for all of us, whatever position we're in, and whatever ashram, whatever varna we have, whatever our situation is. We just have to follow him, follow his teachings. So I guess I can open up for questions, but I do want to thank the devotees here for their warm reception and all of the services you've been. I'm not, whenever devotees offer me respects, or it's just Prabhupada, I know you're respecting me because of Prabhupada, not because of me, it's because of Prabhupada. But I do want to thank you for your hospitality here and all of your, the way you've helped me. So, and also, Madhu Pandit, obviously, and Chanchalapati. When I did the audiovisual presentation, like I said, I sent it out to the GBC. I sent it to a number of devotees that I had emails for. One of them was Chanchalapati, and he had only watched part of the videos, and he contacted me and said, Prabhu, you have to put this into a book. So he offered then, he said, I'll help you. I'll send men can help you, do because I had it all scripts for the video, and to transfer them over as a book. And, there's some changes. I did spell checking, all these different things, verifying some of the actual things. So anyway, it was a lot of work. So he supplied men and got it published and printed. So, I thank him and Madhu Pandit for that. And I'm sorry. And yes, Radhe Shyam Prabhu. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? You just left? Radhe, where'd he go? Anyway, I travel with them, and he handles everything, helps me with everything. When I came to, before I came to India, actually while my wife was still living, I had been wanting to revive my project, my service of making diorama projects. And Rameshwar cut off the funding in 1984, and I have been trying to revive it ever since. So when I got into my, 70s, 70 years old, I just felt my life was a failure. I never got to do that service. And after I started thinking like that, then all of a sudden Krishna gave me an idea to do them as a traveling exhibits, which he had approved of. And I had wanted to do, for also back into the 70s. So It's to make smaller dioramas, about a 4 foot, 2 foot high, and to put a number of them inside of a trailer or a bus that would go out so people can go through. And like I did with all the larger museums, exhibits, to add the soundtrack, the lighting, so it's a whole presentation, each one. And people can go through. And I can have like 30 exhibits or so, 25 to 30 exhibits in one trailer or one bus, and travel around. It can go to different temples and park there for a few weeks. The congregation can go through. It can go to universities. It can go to villages. It can, any functions. And so I decided I wanted to do, like, Krishna gave me some inspiration that maybe that's possible. So when I came to India, I couldn't get it going in America, but when I came to India, I finally decided, no, I've got to do it. I was telling my godbrothers, I came here to do this. And then I sat down, how am I going to, I don't even know, when I finally decided I want to do something, I don't know the language, I don't know how to get funding, because I had been a number project I was going to work on, and every time it didn't work out. And I decided, rather than depending on other temples to fund it, I wanted to get the funding my own. I just want to do this as my service to Srila Prabhupada. But how am I going to do it? I don't know anything here. I don't know the culture. I don't know how to get things done. So I just prayed, Krishna, please send someone local. I was in Vrindavan. Radhe Shyam knew my daughter had been to India before, and she met his sister. And through that, he came to know of her. And so he acted like a brother for her since she was in India alone. And then he came over to meet her, and we met the first time, and I didn't think of anything about it. I just told him what I was planning on doing and things. 2 days later, he contacted me saying, Prabhu, I have been praying to serve a Prabhupada disciple. And so now that I met you and I've been praying for 2 days, he said, you're the one, I'm going to help you with your projects. So I want to thank Radhe Shyam also. He does everything for me. He makes all these arrangements, so I wouldn't be coming here and doing all this on my own. But he's been helping me with everything. And it's amazing. I've been wanting to do for like so many years. I come to Vrindavan and make a prayer, and 2 days later he shows up. I just prayed, send someone, and he shows up. Then I'm like, so if you pray sincerely, especially in Vrindavan, that is Radharani's city, there's Radharani's place. So, you want to actually do service for Krishna? Okay, then I'll make arrangement. So this is the process. I don't know if we'll ever get them done yet, but anyway, that's what we're working on. All right, so I can open up for some questions, comments, criticism, whatever.
You shared about your wife passing away, but you also had shared about your father and mother also passing away, if you wish.
Oh, okay. When I first joined, my father was I guess I say I'm kind of quiet. My father was very quiet. I guess I took it up from him. He never really talked that much about, even towards his family. He was quite... But, he was always very humble. He was very, But anyway, years later, when I first started coming in contact with Krishna consciousness through the books first, my mother thought it was a cult. Didn't want those books in the house, It was right when Charles Manson had, murdered people, and that was known as a cult. So she was like afraid I was going to mixed up in some crazy cult. And then when I joined the temple, but still, we were a close family, so she would, my father and her would come every other week, And eventually then they got to see that Krishna consciousness is genuine. And they didn't get to meet and talk to Srila Prabhupada, but they actually came to the temple and for Prabhupada's lecture. So they became more and more favorable. But they didn't actually take up Krishna consciousness, but they became more and more favorable. So my father, he was getting strokes, and each stroke he would get more and more disabled. And then he finally was bedridden. And it was his final days. I used to go and just read Bhagavad Gita verses. But this one day I started reading, and I couldn't, because I just felt it was time for him to go. Not because he was in such a bad situation. So I told my wife, you read. I couldn't finish reading. So then I just stopped her after she started, and I said, I just told my father, it's okay. You can let go now. You don't have to stay on. And my wife and I were married at the Detroit temple, and the deities are Radha Kunja Bihari. They're, blackish like this Krishna, the marble deity. And so we had a picture sitting next to his bed of Radha Kunja Bihari. So I told my father, I said, this is your real father. This is our spiritual father. This is the father of our soul. I said, you can just let go and surrender to him. Put your life in his hands. He will take care of you. So I said like that. I thought by saying these, telling my father it's time to let go and all that, my mother would be really upset, But she wasn't in the room when I started. And actually, her sister was there, my aunt, because she was a nurse, and she was there to help with my father. So anyway, when I was done, they were both standing at the doorway. And at first I thought, uh-oh. But then they said that was the most beautiful thing they'd ever heard. And I went home. It was probably around 9:30. I went back to the temple. And at 1 o'clock, I got a call. My mother said, my father passed away. So when I came, I asked her, have you moved his body? And she said, no. He's looking right at Radha Kunja Bihari. His eyes were open, and he was looking right at Radha Kunja Bihari. So, and she said he left very peacefully. They just heard him make a little gurgling sound, and they went in, and he was gone. So, we become devotees, and I don't remember how many. I've heard 7, I've heard 10 generations, past and forward, will also become devotees. So, then my mother, by then she was, I would say favorable, but she never really became a devotee or anything. She made a kurta for Srila Prabhupada and japa bag. I like the bandi. I like the kurtas that tie on the side. So I was wanting her to make, before I got Brahman initiation, devotees used to go on the altar with kurtas, and so I was wanting to get a nice silk kurta to go on the altar to do artiks, because Prabhupada, you see Prabhupada offering, it's with a kurta on and everything. The reason we stopped it because we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita one shouldn't wear sewn cloth on the altar, so the devotees stopped. Prabhupada never told us not to, but that's why we stopped doing it. But anyway, so I wanted to get this kurta, and I thought, well, my mother's agreed to make a kurta, and I thought, well, why don't you make one for Prabhupada too? So she did. And so we had to get his measurements, and the Madhajis that had, sewing for Prabhupada, they told us, oh, Prabhupada, he doesn't wear a bandi kurta. They'd never seen him in one. I said, but I want to make him one. I like one, and I want him to, I don't know what. And so we made him, I call it bandi kurta. Is that how you call it? The bandi bungalow or something? Huh? Anyway, so I didn't get to give it to him. My mother didn't give it to him, but I gave it to his servant. They took it up. The next day, Prabhupada wore it. And then when he had to come down for photos, for formal photographs for the Vyas Puja, the photo went on the Vyas Puja book cover. Prabhupada was wearing that kurta. So I guess he liked it. He did tell the servant to thank my mother for making it. Anyway, so when she was leaving, I had just had my first child, and I named her Kalindi. Anyway, there was one reason was I wanted my mother to be able to pronounce it easy, and I thought, well, it's probably easier for her to pronounce. So I came up with the name Kalindi. I like that pastime of Krishna, sing, the personification of the Jamuna, Kalindi, at the shore of the Jamuna River, and asking, what was it, Arjun, or to go and find out who she is and things. So I always liked that story. So I named her Kalindi. I also called her Kalindi Jamuna River. But so my mother was actually in another state then. She was in Arkansas. I was in Northern California, and she was in the hospital with lung cancer. And anyway, I couldn't make it there. I was on the way there. I was driving there to see her. I didn't make it. But my sister was there, and she said the last thing she was saying was Kalindi, Kalindi, trying to learn the name. So she passed away chanting what, you could say a devotee of Krishna, but chanting, the wife of Krishna, Kalindi, Jamuna River. So, So, it's by association of devotees. We get, anyway, they took it up. Any other questions? I just wanted to say one other thing, that like a Jamil, when he was chanting the name of his son, Narayan, it didn't matter that he was chanting for his son, just he was chanting the name Narayan, so the Yamadutis couldn't touch him.
There are many intellectual people. They believe that Prabhupada has given clear instructions.
Prabhupada has what?
Prabhupada has given clear instructions that those who are reading my books and following all the instructions properly, they are initiated by me in parampara. So there are many intellectuals who don't want to be a part of this, this place of this organization, their organization. So they follow those kind of things. So what are the thoughts on that? We are still not able to answer that.
So not be part of this institution or that institution.
They want to read books and they want to follow as per there. And they say that Prabhupada is clearly mentioned, then we are initiated in Guru Parampara. Just by reading. Just by reading and following instructions, they are initiated in Guru Parampara.
That has validity. That does have validity. Prabhupada was asked about Jesus. He said, the devotee asked, how can the Christians go back to the spiritual world by just accepting Jesus and reading his teachings without having a guru? And Prabhupada said, he didn't understand the question, so he restated it, and Prabhupada said he's following Jesus' teachings, and that's his guru. So actually then Madhudvisa was asking questions. He said, but I'm talking about a living guru. It's the only time that living guru is discussed, and Prabhupada said that there is no question of living, he said, guru is eternal, guru is eternal. So and then he said, but Prabhupada, by reading your books, we can't just understand what Krishna says by reading Bhagavad Gita verses. We have to have your purport, we have to have some, guidance. And so just by reading your books, we may not be able to understand everything just by reading your books. And, oh no, he didn't say that way, I'm sorry. That's the way the devotee was still asking about Jesus. That just reading what Jesus has taught, they may not understand. And Prabhupada said the priest in the temple is there. They can help, So, there's Shiksha Guru and there's Diksha Guru. So you can take guidance from so many Shiksha Gurus, different Shiksha Gurus. So that you can come to the temple if you have some questions. You can ask senior devotees. That's there. But Srila Prabhupada has talked about ISKCON may not be there in the future. He has talked about that, but his books are there. He has said that his books are there, and and it will carry on. So he has mentioned about there may not be an ISKCON at some time, but his books will be there. But so ultimately, I'd say, it depends. It's all individual circumstance. It's all individual, But the other thing is, and even with the other ISKCON, it's not. I feel a little odd because I've always been a part of it, and I still am. I'll still go back to the Krishna Balaram Mandir for festivals, and my godbrothers are there. But what I want to say is, I forgot the point I was going to make. What I was going to say is that the first offense against the holy chanting of the holy name is to not to blaspheme those who have dedicated their lives to the propagation of the holy name of the Lord. So while I was writing the scripts for the presentation, I realized how Srila Prabhupada, I realized that part, that my godbrothers have also, on the ISKCON side, have also dedicating their lives to the propagation of the holy name. Everyone here is dedicating their lives to propagation of the holy name. So even if you need to be or someone needs to be outside of an institution on their own, they should have the respect for all the devotees who are, within the institutions. And I noticed that Srila Sridhar Maharaj is Prabhupada's godbrother. Prabhupada has told that he is the one who, divided up the Gaudiya Math, and he disobeyed his spiritual master because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, form a GBC and the GBC shall not nominate Guru. And Prabhupada said he disobeyed Bhaktisiddhanta and held elections and for a new Guru. But still, Prabhupada was very close with Sridhar Maharaj. He kept a very close friendship with him. So even though he understood his godbrother had just, basically disobeyed Bhaktisiddhanta, their guru, but he kept in a cordial relationship with him. So we should also have that, whether we're in or out. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, but within an organization, there's a lot of help. You can take a lot of help. Of course, they have the deities, they have the temple, they have the festivals, the programs, and it's good to participate in those.
So in this continuation, because now we see that a lot of devotees, they make their own Ritvik institutions.
Oh, I see, yeah.
They form their GBCs also.
Well,
this creates a lot of confusion.
that I have a little question about, because if they're going to follow the Ritvik system, Prabhupada did set it up to be, it works both ways. He did want it. He did want the GBC supervising over that so that there is a supervision of that and for people to go off on their own. But even like here, that's what they had to do because the GBC wasn't doing it. The ISKCON GBC wasn't doing it. So they had no choice. And the same with a number of my godbrothers in America, they've set up their own individual. But ultimately, it's best if we can get an organization together because we need that. It should have some overseeing, like with the GBC, that this person isn't just deviating in what he's doing, and that's why I actually, even though in the beginning that's what they had to do with Madhu Pandit and Chanchalpati and all, and start separate. But they're trying to establish it the way Prabhupada wanted it, and the other party isn't yet. So, but as far as other people doing, it's sort of the same thing. They can, but it's best if there was an organization and a GBC established that can oversee it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare.
In temple life, all the brahmacharis and full-time missionaries who are staying, often we are guided, informed that this is like a family. It's like a family. The Prabhupada in the center, deities in the center. Now, before we became a part of this family, we have a different conception of family outside in the mainstream society, where it is purely based on body. So, how do we not extrapolate that kind of conception based on body, and expecting that kind of family bondage or family interactions, or what should be the consciousness we should have when we coin ISKCON as a family?
Well, yes, we have two different, in that sense, we have the bodily family, the parents that gave us our birth, the body, and we have the spiritual master who's given us our spiritual birth of the soul, so I was going to say, my mother didn't tell me until later, but my father actually had followed a guru when he was younger. And when I started getting involved in the Eastern things, and she didn't want to let me know because she thought I was a cult still. But when she came to know, and then she did mention he had accepted a guru before. Because the reason I brought that up is because I did have one conversation with my father when I mentioned something about Prabhupada, how, and then I realized I was glorifying him more than I ever did my own father, and I'm doing it in front of my father. But he understood, he understood it was a spiritual relationship, and it's a higher relationship in that sense. So our bodily, I had one brother, and we were close when we were young, and when I joined the temple, we were close. I was living in his home and all that. But after I was a devotee, to me, my godbrothers were my brothers. They were more of my brothers because we were not only associating all the time. My brother was coming to the temple now and then, and I'd go visit him. But they were more my brothers because just that we're a spiritual family. And Prabhupada is our spiritual father. And like I said, my relationship with Prabhupada became closer and higher than that of my own father. And my father even knew that. He didn't reject that. So, because spiritually, that is an eternal family. Even when my godbrothers have passed away or getting ready to pass away, and we'll see each other again. We'll serve Prabhupada together again, in Prabhupada's company in Goloka. So we have that eternal relationship. So it is a higher family in that way. Body, that comes and goes. So it's temporary. So does that help?
Hare Krishna.
Oh yeah.
If we see in the time of 1966.
I'm sorry.
The period of 1966 till 77, Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. So the momentum, spirit of devotees, their attachment for Srila Prabhupada, and as you mentioned in the last association, we just wanted to please Srila Prabhupada.
He wanted to
Please Srila Prabhupada, make him happy. And our philosophy says same thing, that the disciple has that kind of intimate relation with the Guru, that I want, core of the heart, we have to have that intense desire. So from your such a huge experience, so many decades,
So I'm sorry.
your experience, so many decades of serving Srila Prabhupada, can you tell how we are serving for suppose last 10 years, 12 years, how we can intensify that spirit to serve Guru? Like Prabhupada time, Prabhupada sent like Brahmananda Prabhu to Pakistan, and he went for preaching. He did not ask much. So like the devotees, they sacrifice like anything. Sometimes in our case, we may not have a kind of a spirit.
May not have.
We may not carry a kind of a spirit, sacrifice spirit for Guru. So how to intensify our sacrificing spirit for the pleasure of Prabhupada?
I mean, just having that desire, that's what you're expressing right there is, how to, it first comes from the desire to do. But as you, actually Prabhupada said, who's the quote? Just one second. No, I don't see it right here. I don't remember the word for word, but Prabhupada was saying that his books, his purports are personal instructions. He said Krishna's instruction, the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's personal instructions. And we should take it as personal. Prabhupada said in the spiritual, there's no barriers. So he was saying that we should take his books, his instructions, the personal instructions for us. So many times, the more senior devotees, Prabhupada would give them an order to do this or do that. Go preach here, go do this, whatever. And those of us who joined later, we didn't get the personal instruction. Although I was at the Fate Project and he instructed the Fate devotees what he wanted us to do, but as far as like personal, but some devotee mentioned that, Prabhupada, I want a personal instruction from you. If you could give me some, and Prabhupada said all his instructions are personal, we should take it that way, to chant our 16 rounds, to follow the principles, but everything, preach, everywhere you go, everyone you meet. So all these are our personal instructions Prabhupada's giving us. So that gives us a personal relationship. Because that's what devotees are wanting, a personal relationship. In other words, give me a personal instruction I know I have something to carry out. But all of Prabhupada's instructions are personal. So it's just just becoming, what do you want to say, working on that, a personal relationship. For me, when I when I got Prabhupada's books for 3 years, that was my only experience, was having Prabhupada in the heart, exchange. That he's my guru, I accepted him, but I didn't ever met him, I just had the books, So I already developed that personal relationship with him from that, so that, I don't know if that's answering.
We chant Prabhupada Pranam Mantra and we call Paschatya Desh Tarini. So there was a time when there were thousands and lakhs of followers of Krishna consciousness in the Western countries. But as the time is passing, we are seeing that the movement was very powerful in the West. And it has reduced very much. Now even temples are struggling to maintain themselves. What to speak of the full-time missionaries or the brahmachari communities, they all have scattered. So, one hand we say it is yoga dharma, Sankirtan is yoga dharma. Other side we are seeing that, especially in the Western countries, Prabhupada would take a pride, I am the Guru of America. Sometimes joking, Prabhupada would say, I am Guru of America. So, means that thing has gone very much down, especially in the US and European countries. Will it be, although I do not doubt, but how it will be revived to that extent the way it was in...
Well, let me address that, because I know from myself and a lot of my godbrothers, even if they don't support the Ritvik, the zonal acharya system was so destructive in ISKCON. So so many Prabhupada's disciples left because they could not serve under such people. So a lot of the preaching that was going on, we all saw how things were just deteriorating. And what I mean is that after the Zonal Acharya system, it was like, where are the Prabhupada disciples? There were so few of us left because so many of them left under those people. It wasn't because they gave up Krishna consciousness. It wasn't because they gave up Srila Prabhupada or they didn't want to remain with ISKCON. It was because the situation got so bad. So many of them went to Sridhar, because they would rather be under one of Prabhupada's godbrothers and taking, some guidance and shelter from him than under, the gurus who were they could see they were falling, and they shouldn't be in that position. So even if they didn't accept Ritvik, still so many of them left and went different ways, but not because of the philosophy, not because it let them down, but the management, the way. If the GBC had remained with the Ritvik system and continued on and understood what Prabhupada actually wanted, then so many of them wouldn't have left. So it wasn't that they're all Ritvik right now, or they left because of actual guru issue. They left because of those people, the way they were carrying on. Does that address what you're asking? Or?
I'm asking the another Hare Krishna explosion in the Western countries. One happened Prabhupada time. One happened in those 11 years. Now the condition is very, very poor preaching.
Well, I mean, it exploded because of Prabhupada, obviously, and the preaching, but the devotees were enthusiastic in doing everything. And actually, it kept exploding right after Prabhupada left, but not because of those gurus, despite them. But it's still, so many people had to leave, because, I was, like I said, in 1984, and I was talking with Rameshwar, who was, wanting the future of the Diorama project, and telling me he wanted to go a different way than what Prabhupada said. And I'm quoting from Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, that letter is nearly 10 years old. It's outdated. It's no longer relevant in ISKCON. Prabhupada's teaching, Prabhupada's letter to us, the devotees of that project, he was saying Prabhupada's instructions are no longer relevant. And then he said, in case you haven't noticed, Srila Prabhupada's no longer living. He said, there are now new acharyas, and your duty is to now accept one of us and follow our instructions. I just stood up and, blasted him. You're so fallen, you don't even know what you just said, how offensive the words you just spoke. I said, it's because of you and the other GBC who think like you, you're destroying Prabhupada's mission. It's for those reasons so many devotees had to leave. So it was exploding when Prabhupada was here. It was still exploding for some years afterwards. How many temples were opened up, even in the West, even, all over, just after Prabhupada left, and still so many people coming. But it wasn't because of the new gurus, it was because still that energy was there from Prabhupada. But after that, and then, anyway, I didn't leave. I told Rameshwar I'm never going to leave. He wanted me to leave after that, because I was chastising him. And I never left, but I said, it's time for you to leave. And the next year he left. But I wouldn't applaud that. But anyway, the thing was that they were that was totally fallen down. Fallen philosophy. They thought they were, replacing Prabhupada. They wanted to replace Prabhupada for even the Prabhupada disciples. Prabhupada's instructions are outdated. They're no longer relevant. You got to follow one of us. You got to. So that's why the explosion stopped, and why so many problems. That's one major reason why.
Hare Krishna, have you faced any backlash from your godbrothers for doing what you're doing?
Actually, that's what I was saying. When my children were young, I kept quiet. So really, I haven't been open amongst all my godbrothers. I have with the GBC. I have written them. I continue, I sent them my Ritvik presentation as soon as it was done. I have not been quiet with them, but because I thought if at all possible, it would be good if they could understand they are wrong and correct themselves and, make change, but that hasn't happened yet. But I kept quiet amongst my God brothers in general. I mean, if I knew somebody was favorable, obviously not. But for those who are, don't support it, because I wanted for my children that they have a Krishna conscious life, So I didn't want to make disturbance.
Now, when you started making those videos,
most of my God brothers haven't, that support the GBC side really haven't known that. And so I don't know yet. Yeah, I don't know yet, It hasn't happened yet. Nobody's come up to me and said, "Oh, you support that or this?" It hasn't happened yet. I'm waiting for it, but
You go to Krishna Balram temple, ISKCON, and that is the epicenter of...
I'm sorry, I couldn't...
the Krishna Balram temple, ISKCON, Vrindavan. That is the place where they follow, same Guru system, and you have your 30 hours of video, releasing the book, and openly coming in our favor on the public platform. So
I actually haven't been back to the Krishna Balaram temple since then yet. I mean, I have, not when, like without a program going on, just take Darshan, I have, but I haven't gone there. I did go when some of my God brothers there, nobody said anything yet, but I'm not sure if they saw it, were aware of it. When I came, Panchatattva, the temple president, wasn't there. Some of the other devotees weren't there. He oftentimes goes back to America at that time. So, I'll go there. I'll find out, but I'll find out how they react. I don't know yet. And if they have any question, obviously we're going to sit down and have discussion. If they're willing to have a intellectual, sober discussion, I'm ready for that anytime.
One small thing, can you just tell us little, give us some little encouragement that your book is really voluminous.
I'm sorry, the book is what?
1100 pages book. Yes, so we require some good encouragement.
Why is it so long?
Really, because unless somebody is very studious, beginning till end.
If any, those who know me, and if I send a message, I don't write small. I couldn't use texting. I could never use texting. How can you write something 147 characters? I mean, when texting came out, it was 147. How could you write anything? When I write something, I've got to explain what I'm. Like I said, I'm from electronics and I do computer program. I'm a technical person, so when I explain something, I've got to technically explain it. To where it makes sense to me. And then it's like a whole big long list. But 1,100 pages because it's in two major sections. The first section is my personal story. And the reason I started with doing it that way is because when I told devotees how I changed from accepting the GBC system and slowly converted over to accepting that system is wrong and that Prabhupada actually wanted a Ritvik, when I told them my story about it, I've had people come and say, "Oh, I was sort of on the fence, or I wasn't." But when I read what you had, it made sense to me, and they could. So I felt at the beginning, let me tell my story, and then as I started to tell my story, I made it much longer because I started telling. That's where I put a lot of the philosophy in it, that why the Ritvik system is bona fide. Because as I was making my journey and changing over, I had to confront the different arguments and the different, philosophical questions about it. And so I put that into that section, why it's philosophically correct and my arguments that I had personally in changing over. So that section is half the book. It isn't just about me, but it is, I'm giving my journey and the other part that I begin that with is how the GBC lied to us about not coming to India, where Prabhupada had requested everyone to come, and they came back and told us Prabhupada said not to come. So I started with that because I wanted to give the basis of where these people were at mentally and what offenses they committed as before they even became gurus, so-called gurus, and where they were at mentally by disobeying Prabhupada, by knowingly taking such actions that go against Srila Prabhupada. So how can we accept their understanding of this, what system is right? They're the ones who came up and told us this is what Prabhupada wanted. And how can we just trust that when they were that in such a fallen condition at that point? So that's why I wasn't originally going to do that, but that's why it worked into the story. And then, my point is then we need to study the actual evidence ourselves, make our own decisions, and so that's what that book is giving. A second part is chronological history of what took place by date, concerning Prabhupada. Especially up until his disappearance, but it actually only starts at April 22nd of 1977. It does refer back to before then within that section, but that's where I really start the book chronologically, and then up until when the GBC got things all wrong and how they got it wrong, and then, explaining the history that way. So that's why there's like 2 sections of the book, and that's why 2 major sections, that's why it's so long. One of the reasons. I also sometimes repeat things, and people, that's redundant, but how many times in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna repeat that we're not the soul in different ways, we're not this body in different ways, and that we should surrender to him and serve him? He says it many times.
Do you have plan to put it online also? Means just like
The book?
Prabhupada books. Prabhupada's books are available online.
An online version?
One is the hard copy, which we will be having. But for the mass reach,
it'll eventually go up online as a
really very easy way.
Yeah.
Somebody can read.
we want it to be accessible. That's
if you want to continue anything for a long time,
I'm sorry.
if we want to continue in one process, we need some attachment. Just like if I like the sweetness, there is sweetness which attached you to have that particular sweet, or taste. So what made you, or what are the instructions which made you to continue, although there are a lot of hurdles in your life in practicing Krishna consciousness? So what made you to stick till, saying that I should still continue?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit difficulty. It's my hearing and then certain, I'm sorry.
Prabhu is asking.
I could hear you probably personally, And then go ahead.
Repeat what Prabhu was saying. So Prabhu is asking that for doing anything, we require an attachment. So what are those elements of attachment that has helped you to stick on to Krishna consciousness for so long?
Is that okay? So just association of devote. I never felt that I belonged in that world out there without, before I found Krishna consciousness. I just didn't fit in. I didn't feel like so for me, that's what, when I came, I just felt that I'm home. This is it. This is where I belong. So I could not imagine living without the association of devotees or without, and once I have taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada, that's it. There is no, I understood that's why I'm at this birth. Nothing else makes sense for me. So there would be no other life without Prabhupada. Actually, all the devotees, all my godbrothers, we always used to say that. If it wasn't for Prabhupada, where would we be? We'd be some degraded, life, So there's just, I don't know, that's all I can say is I can't imagine living any other way. But I would say that not without struggle and not without sometimes, there's personal fall downs. We all have our personal struggles. So it's not like, I'm not going to say, I shouldn't make the, like I'm always been pure and this is great. No, I also have fall downs. I also have my weaknesses. But there's no way I could live without Krishna consciousness, without the association, without, Krishna in my life anymore, or Prabhupada, and Lord Chaitanya, and Jagannath. I don't think that's any different than any other devotee. Yeah, Haribo.
You maybe might give your answer before this question, but I'm not clear on this point actually. What was that? How is that? Some devotees just saw Prabhupada, just met for 1 month, and they became so attached to Prabhupada that they are able to, really take any inconvenience for Prabhupada. So what was that? Just in 1 month, just by seeing, just by hearing, they became so attached to Prabhupada, like you stayed at a temple just like this. So how was that case?
So I couldn't quite understand, but you're saying, so some devotees who only have 1 month and they get so attached, is that?
Yes. They just saw Prabhupada. Yes. They just saw Prabhupada and ready to.
Now you're talking about while Prabhupada was present, or just now people coming?
Prabhupada was present.
Huh? And when he was present? I mean, that was Srila Prabhupada. What can we say? I mean, when I joined the temple, like I said, I did have Prabhupada's books for 3 years. I mean, accepted Prabhupada for 3 years. But I shouldn't make the misconception that I had become a real, like a devotee for those 3 years. I didn't have any association devotees. I didn't, other than Prabhupada's books, but I immediately gave up meat eating. That was the next day after I got the Krishna book. Immediately gave up the meat eating. I didn't remember reading anything about that. I should say it was like, I got the book on Saturday at the library. Sunday morning on the FM radio stations and at the time, the war in Vietnam was going on. And on Sunday morning, they would read the names of the people who died in the war that week, of the young soldiers. They would read them off. And my brother had that. I was staying with my brother, and he had that radio on, and they were giving the names of the people who died. And he was in the kitchen cooking bacon. And I could smell the bacon, and people are dying in the war in Vietnam. And there's a pig being, cooked in the house, and people have died in the war, and there's an animal being cooked. And it just like, he was done and said, breakfast is ready. And I said, I'm not eating meat anymore. I'm not touching it. So, it wasn't what I read exactly, but I came in contact with Prabhupada's book. So after I joined the temple, what I was going to say was I wasn't, at the same time that I started getting into Krishna consciousness, the whole hippie thing in the West, I got into smoking, marijuana and taking some drugs. So that was everybody was doing that. So when I came, I thought, how am I going to live without smoking marijuana, without getting high? And I thought, how am I going to manage, And after I was a devotee, after I joined the temple, and I was a devotee for 2 years, I just thought, I never thought about it. For the whole past 2 years, it never even crossed my mind, And I was like so worried, how was I going to get by and do it? Just get engaged in devotional service, and I just never even thought about it for 2 whole years. And I realized that was Srila Prabhupada's not just his mercy, but his potency, that we were just getting Prabhupada's potency. I didn't even think about it, And so I realized that was directly from Prabhupada's potency. You get, the iron goes near the fire, and the iron will turn red hot. So as we were in the association of Prabhupada, even though not personally, directly all the time, but just his fire was so hot that we was just near there, we would become hot. Is that
Hare Krishna. You mentioned about the artist, Devabhakti Mataji, and the experience what she had with Prabhupada, when Prabhupada sanctioned that she can paint that art of Radha and Krishna being together. And we also heard Jayananda Prabhu's glorious passing away. Is there any instance other than these two is there any other instance like Prabhupada directly hinting or telling?
Personally, I don't know. I don't know of any. I can't think of any anyway that I can remember.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, in your book, there are so many evidences that you presented.
There's so many.
Evidences that you presented to prove the Vedic system, Vedic theory. So there are gurus who say that Prabhupada has given us personal instructions to make disciples. Not everyone, but 2-3 gurus who are claiming that. So have you covered their interviews or something, discussions with them? Because their point is that when Prabhupada was there, he has given his instruction, and at the time of leaving the body, Prabhupada was aware that this may not work for the foreign devotees, so therefore he has given that instruction that we will get a big system. So
I'll address that because it's an important point. And obviously not all of them who have said that. I haven't conversed with or know exactly what they've said. But what is often quoted is that many times Srila Prabhupada had said that he wanted his disciples to become guru, and that he had given that one doesn't accept gurus in the presence of one's own guru. After he passes, one can accept disciples. So he has said that many times. But in almost all of those situations, when he does mention that, he mentions something about the criteria, the qualification. One has to be qualified. Like he was telling a devotee that he can accept disciples, but he said that, well, I can't remember which was which, but anyway, one time he said, but a perfect leader means he has to become perfect follower first. So the training has to be completed first. But in April 22nd, 1977, which was 3 weeks before he announced he's leaving this world, Srila Prabhupada, Hamsadutta went to take his own disciples. And Prabhupada was talking about that. And he was saying, what is the use of becoming a rascal guru? Now, Hamsadutta, in 1969, he wrote him a letter saying he wanted this Bhakti Shastra and Bhakti Vaibhava and Bhakti Vedanta exams. And he said those who complete the Bhakti Vedanta can accept their own disciples. And then he said by 1975, all my disciples will be able to accept their own disciples. He wrote that in 1969. By 1975, he never mentioned anything about it again. And so 1977, when Hamsadutta, the same Hamsadutta, that he said would be able to accept disciples, when he tried to accept his own disciples, Prabhupada said, what's the use of becoming a rascal guru or making rascal gurus? So then he said, I want to give my order. I want to say you become acharya, you become authorized. I am waiting for that because the training must be complete. So first, if the devotees have to become actually qualified before you can give that order. So my understanding is all those other previous times was just Prabhupada expressing his desire that his disciples will become so elevated they can make disciples.
They are saying that they were personally instructed.
Then
the Indian gurus have, there are 2-3 Indian gurus who are playing.
Gaur Govind I know as one. Yes. And he did not. When it came down to it, he did not have any direct instruction by Prabhupada. He told this to his own disciples. He told it to the GBC when they were setting up the first 11 in that meetings in Mayapur. I didn't know this until more recently, and I was reading it. He told them that Prabhupada had told him he can become guru. So he said that Prabhupada whispered it in his ear when Prabhupada was ill. So that, you can't verify that. And they were saying, well, we can't verify it. I'm sorry, we can't. Then he said, well, I have it in writing in a letter. So they asked to see that letter. And Prabhupada said that Gaur Govind was either going or had already begun the temples in Bhubaneswar. And he said that, by your leadership, something, you make devotees. And said something about his leadership quality. And that was all. He never said that you can initiate and become guru. That's not in the letter. Later, he was telling his disciples that he had a letter by Prabhupada and saying he was talking about the same letter. So when a Prabhupada disciple, and I can't remember who it was, I don't know him personally when I saw his name, but he had $108,000 in his bank account that he had been telling other people, if you can prove that Prabhupada had told you to become guru, I'll give you the $108,000. And he went to, I think, wherever he was at that time. Was he in Singapore? It was some other place where Gaur Govind was. And he went there and, he came there just that he could prove, if he could show that letter. And then he didn't want to show the letter because he knew it didn't say that. Whoops. And so he asked him, did Prabhupada ever, authorize you to become guru? And he finally had to admit, no. Now that's what I've read on that. That is his side of the story, the devotee who did this. But all the other devotees that I know one other God brother, I've had communication with him. He said, oh, Prabhupada gave me the direct order. But when we asked him to prove that direct order, he just quoted one of the letters where Prabhupada said he wants his disciples to become guru. That's just an expression. That is not a direct order. And then Prabhupada had himself said on April 22nd, I'm still waiting to give that order. I want to give this order, but I'm still waiting, So he had not given anyone an order.
So their arguments are like this, that when Prabhupada is not given the clear instruction how to give sannyas order.
I'm sorry, what?
Prabhupada is not given the clear instructions how to give sannyas order, initiation.
Well, in January, I think it was January or February 1977, he said no more sannyas.
We are giving sannyas to everyone. Everyone is following that.
He gave sannyas to younger men so they could help him establish the Krishna consciousness in the West. But he said that none of his disciples are actually acting as real sannyasi. And so he told them no more sannyas. He met with all of the sannyasis and he was chastising them how they were not actually behaving as sannyasis.
That means that the followers should not opt for sannyas.
Well, Prabhupada did give sannyas twice after that. To an Indian, like to Bhakti Churu and I think one other, but then we just see that as a special case. He could if he wanted to, but he was saying no more sannyas. That's what he did say to the,
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhu is under the leadership of Madhubandit Prabhu.
Under what?
Madhubandit Prabhu leadership. So we are running this research.
Yeah. Under
the leadership of Madhubandit Prabhu. So we are continuing this system. So what do you suggest? Any drawbacks in our system or up to mark? What do you feel?
I didn't understand the question. I said, what? Sometimes you have to speak slowly. Well, you understood? I don't know.
Prabhu,
we are having the Ritvik system
Yeah.
under the leadership of His Grace
Yeah.
Madhu Pandit Prabhu. And you are having association with us for a long number of years. What is your opinion about our system? Is it perfect, good, average, or what?
Okay.
Any
Is that what you're asking?
Any improvement?
I didn't have any association with the Hare Krishna movement before. Like I said, when I got the letter done, the video I was working on up, and I sent out the links. I sent, to Chanchala and to Madhu Pandit. And then Chanchala responded back and said, you have to do it as a book and we'll help you out, So that's basically the first time I went to Bangalore in 1994 before they had become Ritvik. Well, the temple was being construction, and I met them, and we, but I after they became Ritvik, I had no direct connection. I've heard about it, and America. I didn't come to India that often, and I went in 85. I went in 94 when I went to Bangalore. So the next time I came was 2013, and I really came because anyway, I just didn't. I wasn't involved with the Ritvik centers, so I can't really. Because I really don't know the whole system. I know they have GBC and things. So far, what I've seen of it, you judge by a result. So far, what I'm seeing is obviously I'm really happy with the results I'm seeing. Like devotees, I have noticed that from Bangalore, when I was talking to devotees in here, a lot of devotees ask, how can I be more sincere? How can I have a closer relationship with Prabhupada? And they're asking very good, nice, wonderful questions and have a good, desires in that way, which I haven't been hearing from the other side very much, So, so far, everything I've seen, I will look into, I'm going to write on the direction of management of another book on that, which, but as far as I've seen, everything I've seen is great. Judged by the result. I'm sorry. Namhat? What is it?
Take it up later.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's late. Srila Prabhupada ki